What's going on, guys? It's Dara here. Today I'll show you how to build a meditation app. It could be a music player app too, the concept is the same. We're starting off with a meditation screen and skip any UI UX before that. Otherwise it's going to be too long. We'll make use of mock data to present the image, details such as duration, title, and description. When the play button is tapped, it opens up the player screen and it automatically starts the music. Here we can pause, play again, forward 10 seconds, rewind 10 seconds, and loop the track. We can even move the timeline bar to play at the desired time. If you click on the stop button, the audio stops playing and we're led back to the previous screen. Another way to close the screen is to tap on the dismiss button. Alright, I hope you're excited about this app. Let's take a deep breath and begin. Start by creating a new Xcode project. The template is an iOS app. Next, name it Meditation. Just don't name it with app at the end, that's all. The organization identifier is your domain in reverse. Interface is SwiftUI, language is Swift, and leave these checkboxes empty. Next, and create. Right away, change the simulator device to iPhone 13. Close the right panel, resume, and adjust the preview size. As seen in the demo app, we need a picture for both screens. For that, head over to unsplash.com, where you can browse and download freely a wide range of high-resolution photos. Search for meditation and pick the one you like. As for me, I chose this one. On the download free drop-down, select small. This size should be enough for an iPhone app. Open your Finder. Rename it image-stones. Make sure the extension is not a WebP as Swift cannot capture it just yet. Open the Assets folder and drag and drop the file into it. Close this. As usual, we'll start with the user interface first and then the UX and functionalities. Create a new SwiftUI file. Name it MeditationView. Create. Replace the text with a VStack. Let's resume this. Inside it, instantiate an image view with the name of the image being image stones, the one we just downloaded. Make it resizable. Scale to fill. As for the size of the image, I decided to listen to the device dimensions. So frame it with the height as the third of the device screen height. So UIScreen.main.bounds height divided by 3. We'll add markers along the way to situate yourselves. So here, also we'll be able to navigate to there easily. Under the image, place a Z-stack and create a color instance with RGB values 24 divided by 255, 23 divided by 255, and 22 divided by 255. This color is a warm black tone. We'll set the height of the frame to be the other 2/3 of the screen. Add the modifier ignore safe area to the VStack to remove any blank space. And the spacing in the V-stack, make it 0 to make sure there's no spacing between the top area and the bottom area. We'll mark this as background. On top of the background, we're going to add a V-stack for the content. The alignment is leading. The spacing is 24. And inside it, we're going to show the type and duration. Add another V-stack. The alignment is also leading. The spacing is 8. And for the content, we're going to add a text view for music and another text view for the duration. Let's write 0 second for now. We'll make all text in this view white, so the foreground color, set it to white. Let's change the font to subheadline. The text case to uppercase. And set the opacity to 0.7. Let's add a spacer to push everything to the top. And because this is stuck to the border, add a padding of 20. Before the spacer, place 2 text views for the title and description. The title is going to be 1 minute relaxing meditation. The other text view, I just wrote gibberish basically. The font for the title is actually none other than title. Let's mark this as the title and this one as the description. Between the title and description, we're going to insert the play button. So add a button view with action and label. For the action, leave it empty for now. As for the label, we can call the label view that we can pass the title and system name because we're going to use SF symbols. The title of the button is going to be play and the system name play.fill. Let's make the font headline. The foreground color, black. Add a vertical padding. 10. And set frame with the max width of infinity. This ensures that it takes the whole width of the parent view. Then set the background to white. And finally, we're going to round the corners. So corner radius 20. Mark this as the button. Half of our UI implementation is done. The other screen appears as an audio player similar to any music player app. Afterwards, we'll connect the 2 screens together via a sheet presentation. Let's create a new SwiftUI file. Call PlayerView. We're going to use the same image as the background, so place a Z-stack. And then an image view with the same file name as before. Let's make it resizable. Scale to fill, same as before. But this time, the frame is going to take the whole width of the screen. UIScreen.main.bounds.width. And finally, Make sure that it ignores the safe area. On top of the background image, we'll put the rest of the content, mainly all the components that compose a playback view. We'll wrap that content in a V-stack with a spacing of 32. And we'll set the padding to 20. The first component is a button for dismissing this screen. So let's add a button view with action and label. Let's leave the action empty. For the label, we're going to add the image with the system name from fsymbol as xmark.circle.fill. Let's set the font to 36. So system size 36. And set the foreground color to white. To align it to the left, embed it in an H stack and insert a spacer at the bottom. Let's re-indent this. There you go. Under the H stack, let's display the title to show users which meditation item they got in. So add a text view, and the title is the same, 1 minute relaxing meditation. Make the font title and the foreground color white. Here again, use the spacer to push it to the top. The bottom of the screen will hold all components related to playback. Let's start with the playback timeline. Add a V-stack with a spacing of 5. Inside it, place a slider and instantiate it with the arguments value and in. The value accepts a binding binary floating point. So we'll need to add a state variable to store the value. Go to the top. Here, add state private var value of type double, and we're going to default it to 0.0. Now scroll back down. Here we can use the value prefixed by the $sign. The $sign indicates that it's a binding variable. As for the in argument, it needs a close range value. So write 0 to 60 for now. If you run the preview and move the slider, you can see that the color of the fill line is blue. Change it to white with the accent color modifier. This is the playback, and this is the playback timeline. Right under it, we'll show the current time and remaining time. Let's insert an H stack for those. Add in 2 text views. The first one is a timing of 0, and the second one is a timing of 1 minute. Set the font to caption and the foreground color to white again. Add a spacer between the 2 text views to push them to the side. And this H tag is the playback time. At the bottom of the screen, there will be 5 control buttons for playing, stopping, forward, rewind, and looping. For this reason, let's make the button a reusable component. Let's create a new SwiftUI file. Call it Playback Control button. We'll set some props with default values. First is system name of type string equal to play. Then font size of type CG float. Make the default size 24. Var color of type color. And make it a default white. And lastly, var action. This is a function type. It returns void. Doing this way makes it flexible and shortens some code. Only the action is required to be passed in because what's the point of a button without an action, right? In the body, add a button view with action and label. And the action, we're going to call that. For the label, it's an image view with system name as the system name. Set the font system size to the font size. And the foreground color to the color prop. SwiftUI is now complaining that the preview is missing argument for parameter action in call. So fix the recommended solution. And the action, just make it an empty closure. Resume. Since we defaulted the button color to white, we can't see anything. So for the preview, change the theme to dark by adding the preferred color scheme modifier, dark. Of course, you could have skipped the button view and only used the image view here, and add the untap gesture modifier back in the meditation view. However, you'll be missing out the animation feedback that comes with it on the tap action. This one. So I always resort to a button view if it's a button. Back to player view, we're going to lay down 5 of these buttons in a row. Under the V stack, first insert an H tag and call the playback control button. We're only going to specify the system name. This one is the repeat button. And we're going to add the action closure, but we're not putting in any code just yet. So add a marker for each button. This is the repeat button. Copy this and paste 4 times. The second button is backward button. And the SF symbol name is going to be go backward.10. The middle button is play pause. The icon name is play.circle.fill. However, I want the font size to be bigger than the others, so make it 44. The fourth button is the forward button. The system name is go forward.10. And the last one is the stop button. The icon name is stop.fill. Finally, to distribute the space evenly in the horizontal line, let's insert a spacer between them. There you go. Mark this whole group as the playback control. Notice that because the background's image stop portion is light colored, it's hard to read the title and see the dismiss button. I'm going to apply a sort of a blur view on top of this image. This is not the usual method which uses UIKit. It's just a little hack of mine for this case only. Scroll to the top, and under the image view, we're going to add a blur view. Make a rectangle and set the background to thin material. Set the opacity to 0.25 and let it ignore the safe area too. Now this is better. Now let's bind the two screens together by showing the PlayerView as a full screen cover when the play button is tapped. In the meditation view, go to the top, add a state variable, state private var show player equal to false. Then let's update it to true on the play button. Show player equal to true. Then under ignore safe area, add a full screen cover which is presented on dismiss content. Is presented is the binding variable of show player. No dismiss action. And click on enter for the content. Here we're going to present the player view. That's it. Let's try and see if it works in the preview. Play. Play. Nice. Now we're stuck in this screen, so the next thing to take care of is to dismiss this view. Once the full screen cover is up, we can dismiss it on the player view side. Go to player view. SwiftUI stores the dismiss action in the environment to dismiss any sheet or cover that is being presented. We can retrieve it like this at environment. Dot dismiss, and we're gonna store it in the dismiss variable. Obviously, let's call it in the action closure of the dismiss button. Dismiss. Now let's test it out. Go to meditation view, resume, play, close. Sweet. At this point, we completed all the UI and will be moving on to passing data. For the next part, we'll be setting up a model to structure our data and a view model that's going to hold dummy data. The view model is not mandatory in this example app since we only present one meditation item. However, I proceeded this way to mimic a real app as much as possible where there can be numerous collections of items. You'll be able to pass data efficiently with a view model and might want to introduce states later on if you wish to continue progressing with the project. Let's get to it. Create a new file. That's going to be a Swift file. Call it MeditationView model. The data model for meditation is as follows. Struct meditation. Usually there should be an ID property that's unique. So let ID, and we can generate it by calling the UUID. let title type string, let description string, let duration of type time interval, which is in other words a double, let track string, and finally let image string as well. We'll instantiate meditation once and store it in a static variable data. Static let data is equal to, I just transferred all the prior text in here. Static allows the property to be shared among all instances of that struct. Let's set up a class for the view model. A view model's purpose is to hold presentation logic and acts as a messenger between the view and the model. Here, final class, meditation view model. Make it conform to observable object to turn it into a publisher so that any view who subscribes to it gets updated. We'll add a privately set property, private set var meditation of type meditation. This is to ensure we can only update it in this class. We didn't specify any default value, so we need to do that in the initializer method. Init, add the argument meditation, and set the property meditation, self-meditation, to the passed argument. Now let's go to meditation view, scroll to the top, add a state object, var meditation VM of type meditation view model. Now this view becomes a subscriber to the meditation view model. On the other hand, the view model will follow the life cycle of this view. Scroll down. We're going to fix the error in the preview with the recommended solution. Click on Fix. First, we'll initialize meditation view model with our dummy data and store it in a static variable. Static let meditation VM equal to meditation view model and pass in our meditation.data. And then use it here, meditation VM. Resume, and it works again. Previously, when we were implementing the UI only, we hard-coded the data. Let's turn it dynamic by using data from the view model instead in the image and the text view. Scroll to the top, the image here, call meditationvm.meditation.image. For the duration, meditationvm.meditation.duration. And because duration is a number, to transform it into a string, we can append the formatted method. And we're going to add S at the end for a second. For the title, meditationvm.meditation.title. And lastly, the description, meditationvm.meditation.description. However, we only see the duration in seconds, which is not ideal. Let's show it correctly. Beforehand, we need to establish some helpers method. Create a new Swift file. Call extensions. We will extend date components formatter. Extension. Date components formatters. Let's add our helper method to it. Static. Let abbreviated of type date components formatter equal to. First, initialize a new date for components formatter. Let formatter is equal to date components formatter. Then change the formatter allowed units to show the hour, minute, and second. As well, change the unit style to abbreviated. Finally, return the formatter and call the method directly here. This pattern is called lazy initialization. It won't be initialized until use. Also, static ensures that there's only one instance of it. Let's print it to see for ourselves. Print initializing date components formatter dot abbreviated. In short, date formatters are expensive operations, so lazy initialize it is the best approach for performance. While we're at it, we'll create another method for showing it in the timer form for the player view. Copy this, paste, call it positional. This time we'll only show the minute and second, so remove hour. For the unit style, change it to positional and set the 0 formatting behavior to pad. Pad instructs to add zeros when appropriate. Don't forget to change the logger message here. How to use the new formatter? Head back to MeditationView. On the duration, call date components formatter dot abbreviated and also call the string method from MeditationVM.meditation.duration. It's possible that it fails to convert it to strings, so this would be the alternative text. Let's pass data in the same manner for the player view, except that MeditationVM is a prop that gets passed instead. Var MeditationVM Meditation View Model. Change the image name to that of the view model. Let's do that for the title too. For the preview, copy the static property from the meditation view and pass that in the player view. Now the error should go away. And if we click on resume, it's back to working again. But we're not out of the woods yet. The preview is still buggy in meditation view. So let's fix that. Here, pass in meditation VM. Resume. Awesome. Remember that the app starting view, content view, is still left untouched. It still shows hello world, while put in meditation view instead of the text view and initialize a meditation view model with our meditation mock data. That's all. Up next, all that's left to do is audio playing, which is the point of this app. We'll rely on AVKit to start the audio player, turn on some capabilities for background playback, and set up some actionable functions to match all the playback buttons and slider. We'll work on that in the second part of this course. If you like it so far and can't wait to get to the next part, please like and subscribe. Would appreciate it. Until then, bye-bye.